The advanced crystals that were gifted to Quinn couldn't be used to get any of the items from his system shop. Usually, the items that came from the system shop were better quality and more powerful than the ones he could find online. The only downside was that many of the items required specific crystals for them to be created. An example of this was the intermediate crystal Quinn owned, which could now be used to create 2 short swords for Vorden. Although he didn't quite have the funds to make it for now, as it still required him to purchase 2 more intermediate crystals. He was already low on funds and didn't know how much a forger would charge him to create the advanced weapon. This all put him in the situation he was in now. He had no choice but to head off in search of a forger. On the weekend, the school would set up a market stall inside one of the school's gyms. Here, students were able to sell items they didn't need or items that they had made. This included beast equipment. It was a good place for the forging students and the rich kids to sell their old equipment they didn't need. There would also be a few beast crystals there, but very rarely, most of the time, beast crystals would be sold on the online marketplace because they already had a value attached to them. The reason why forging students didn't do the same was because they were beginners. If a forger didn't belong to a faction or a good family, it meant they had no reputation. Next, no one would buy their equipment online, only being able to view it through a computer screen. At least in the stall, the other students could test it out a few times or feel the quality of the item. But looking for items in the marketplace wasn't a problem for Quinn, since he had his inspection skill. It would show him the stats of each item, and he could find the best one. This was what he had planned to do today. He had entered the gym, and it seemed a little busier than he was expecting. As he heard the voices of people talking, he soon realized why. Equipment here was sold at a far lower price than on the online market, and you could haggle for prices. I hate haggling, Quinn thought, realizing that he would now have to go into one of these situations. He quickly stood at the entrance and used his inspection skill, bringing up the stats of as many items as possible. Next, he would filter it down to those with an active skill and finally, the best quality ones of the lot. I found you, Quinn said as he walked over to one of the stalls. It was one of the quieter ones, and while using his inspection skill, he realized why. The booth was selling only basic tier equipment. It might have done well during the start of the year, but now towards the end, most students were looking for at least intermediate level gear. Inspect. Basic tier spiked boar spear. Strength +2. Active skill. Barbed spear. When active, several quills of spikes will appear from the head as well as the body of the spear. These quills are just as sharp and do as much damage as the end of the spear. Creator, Alex Way. Excuse me, Quinn said. Did you make all of these? Pointing to the spears off to the side. Oh, a customer. The man behind the counter sprung up to live. That's made by one of the top forgers in the school. It's really good quality and even has an active skill. It's going for the great price of 239 credits, but for you, I can do it for 229 credits. Yeah, it's great. Quinn laughed nervously, not knowing how to deal with the pushy student. Do you know why he only creates basic tier weapons? Do you not have anything at the higher level? Quinn asked. Unfortunately, Alex's background is not a mighty one. After all, how can you create higher tier equipment if you can't afford the materials? Anyway, about that spear, are you happy to go ahead and take your order? As soon as the student said this, he had already lifted the spear and then started to set the transaction on his watch. No, Thank you for your purchase. Have a nice day, the student said with a smile, and Quinn walked away with a basic tier spear in his hand. Why couldn't I just say no? After being practically forced to buy the spear from the merchant, he was told by the student that none of the forgers sell the equipment themselves. They pass it on to them, who get a commission from each sale. This allows them to practice their negotiation skills in the future. If they wanted to become a merchant or an advisor for a big faction in the future, it would be good to have some practice. However, he did get information about where the forger known as Alex would be at this time and day. His search had led him to the forging club, which was a separate room located on the bottom floor at the back of the school. To enter it, though, one would have to go outside and enter through the back. To the side of the forger club, there were several rooms. Each had smoke coming out from the top. These were forging rooms that students were able to practice in or on the weekend if they wanted to use them, rent out for a certain amount of credits. The student had informed Quinn that Alex was always busy working hard. With each credit he earned, he would use it to buy more supplies and start working on more items. At first, it was great for his business, but now they had an overstock of weapons, and no one was buying. But Alex was a little stubborn when it came to listening to his business partner. Just by looking at the outside of the rooms, one wouldn't tell who was in it. But it didn't matter for Quinn, because his inspection skill was at level 3 and had improved greatly, allowing him to slightly see past the walls of the rooms, and he had finally found his target. There was a thick iron door at the entrance. At first, Quinn gave it a knock, but there was no answer. From inside, the sound of clanging could be heard, so it was expected that the knock might not have been heard. Still, not wanting to waste any more time, Quinn used his brute force to barge open the door with his shoulder. As soon as he did, a gust of heat directly hit him in the face. It was so hot, it was causing him to feel slightly faint, and he was already feeling that way due to the sun. "Darn it! What idiot would open the door in the middle of someone forging a weapon?" Alex shouted as he threw down his metal hammer on the floor and lifted the goggles off his face. He quickly went to the furnace to turn it off, trying to save all the energy he could. "Great," he said, looking at his weapon that was half done. "It's ruined." Alex was quite a skinny lad for a forger. Usually they would be quite large and muscular in size due to all the hammering and lifting of metals they did all day. But on a closer look, Alex did indeed have muscles even if he did have a small frame. He was still tall, though, and it seemed as if he just ate a bit more he would have been in great shape. He had short blonde hair that was styled up a little, and all over his body he was sweating. His clothes looked like he had gone for a swim, and Quinn just couldn't imagine how long he had been in here with this heat to look like that. Alex walked up to the student he had never seen before and held out his wrist, showing his watch. Quinn could see it had the number 3 displayed, showing his power level, but didn't know what Alex was trying to do. "Come on, pay me. Pay me for the materials that you just ruined." Quinn looked completely confused, and he had just opened the door. What was Alex talking about? "Well, no wonder you opened the door without thinking. You changed the temperature of the room, which destroys the whole crafting process." Again, Quinn was equally confused, but he was no forger. He had seen Logan make a few items before, and he had never complained about temperature, although thinking back, Logan's methods also seemed unconventional compared to normal forgers. Perhaps all this talk of heat was what allowed Alex to make the perfect weapon. "Sorry," Quinn said, not wanting to get off on the wrong foot, and decided to pay a total of 300 credits for the materials used as well as Alex's time. "Well, at least you know you've committed a mistake," Alex said as he looked down and noticed the spear in his hand. He then started to walk away and was about to clear up his work table to prepare the next batch. "No refunds." "Huh?" "I said no refunds," Alex replied. "That spear, if you want a refund, go talk to Joe at the stall about it. It's none of my business." "No, you got it all wrong. This I was kind of forced into buying it. I noticed the quality when seeing it at the stall. It's great, and I was hoping you could do something similar. I heard you have problems finding materials for creating weapons." Quinn then took out the 3 advanced tier crystals and placed them on Alex's worktop. "I want you to make me a new weapon." At a glance, Alex could tell straight away that the crystals were at an advanced level. He had never worked with this high quality of crystal before, and had at most worked at the intermediate level. Although the process with such things would be the same, the higher crystal, the more time would be needed. "Sure, I can do that for you. There are 3 crystals here, right? So that will cost you 30,000 credits. As Quinn looked at his money remaining, he realized he only had 4,400 credits to his name. How the hell am I going to come up with that amount of money? Just outside the school, a slim female body stood outside the gate. She looked up and saw that the building looked identical to the one she was at herself not too long ago, but this one was different. Never in her wildest dreams would she have thought she would be coming back here again, and not so soon. The wind blew her hair, and she quickly grabbed her round hat that covered most of her face. "I'm coming for you," the number rang in his head multiple times. 30,000 coins. It was a figure he had never achieved in his life before, and he was wondering why it was so expensive. An advanced crystal was usually sold in the market for around 10,000 credits. Usually, the fee of creating something using the crystal would then cost around the same. "If you don't mind me asking, why is the price so high?" "I thought you were some spoiled rich snob with the way you placed those 3 advanced crystals out on the table like that," Alex replied. "Look, I'm not cheating you. You probably thought that similar to the basic tier and the intermediate tier crystals. The cost to work on these would be roughly the same as the cost of the crystals, but the advanced tier crystal takes an incredible amount of time in comparison. Not only that, but you want me to make one weapon using all three. Some weapons and pieces of armor only need one. The second reason is the metals I'll be mixing in with the beast crystal. I will have to purchase them myself, and while you can get away with putting cheap metals and mixing them in, it will only make the weapon's durability low. With basic tier weapons and intermediate tier, you don't have to worry so much. But with these beautiful things, Alex said, looking at the crystals closely. His eyes were almost touching them. They need better treatment. From the way Alex talked about the crafting method and the way he looked at the crystals, he could tell that this person was a true forger who loved his craft. He was the right person for the job. The only problem was, how would Quinn come up with 30,000 credits? Looking at Alex, staring at the crystals, Quinn started to think hard. He could always just use his influence skill and force him to create one, but it felt like an abuse of its powers. If he was to do that, then what would be different from him and all the other high-level students who forced the others to do things for them? If he was going to work hard on something like this, then Alex deserved to be rewarded for it. The second reason, Quinn saw a light when he met Alex. He didn't want him to work on this weapon, but maybe all future weapons. He couldn't just keep using his influence skill on him to force him to do work whenever he wanted. Finally, after a while of thinking, Quinn had come up with a plan. Though he was unsure whether it would work or not, it was the only thing he had. "I can't give you the money," said Quinn. "I don't have that much, but what I can do is give you these." His shadow equipment was activated, resulting in the smoke and a dark shadow to start appearing in the palm of his hands. Alex immediately went to grab the spear that Ray had brought, thinking that perhaps he was going to try to force him into making things for him. It wouldn't have been the first time it happened, and it surely wouldn't be the last either. But then, when the shadow disappeared inside Quinn's hands, the gauntlets he wore were seen. They were still quite badly scuffed up from the fight with the multiplier, so they honestly didn't look that great. "I'll give you these," Quinn said, handing them over. Alex took a brief moment to have a look all over, and there were a few things he noticed but didn't say anything about. For intermediate tier weapons, it was some of the best quality work he had ever seen. "Who made this?" Alex asked. "I don't know. I found it on a planet in a storage room, and that's not the only weapon I have either. Not only that, but these weapons seem to be one of a kind. On the marketplace, I couldn't find anything that came close to it. It's the same with the other weapons as well. My suggestion is for me and you to become business partners." "Business partners?" Alex asked. "Think about it. The fact that it isn't on the marketplace means you could melt down these gauntlets and make a blueprint of them. Then after a few people start to use them and the word gets out, they would start to sell like hotcakes. It might take a while, but soon people will learn of your name," Quinn said with excitement, trying his best to pitch his new idea. "But gauntlets? They're not exactly the most popular item. I do agree that at some point it would have the selling effect you're talking about, but that could take years. I checked the weapon, and it has no marking, which is strange. Every forger usually puts their marking on their work. This is why I'm inclined to believe you about no one having this up on the market. Even if I did, putting my mark would claim the blueprint as mine. My problem is, what do you get out of this? You could sell a blueprint that hasn't been distributed yet for a lot more money than what I asked for," Alex said. "To answer your first question, don't you remember I said I have other items as well? For this deal, how about I chuck in a pair of short swords?" Alex was thinking hard, and Quinn could see this. It seemed like his plan was about to work, but there were a few more details he needed before getting him to agree. "As I said, we would be business partners. In return, I will do everything to protect you," Quinn said, lifting his level 6 power watch. "As well as that, I would want a royalty. Let's say 30% of all your sales, and you make me my advanced weapon for free. You could, of course, carry on your day here as a talented forger, and when you leave school, you may get scouted to work for a top faction, or maybe even one of the big four, but is that all you want to do? Work for someone else? This is your chance to start the grounds to make your own company. I know you care about making the perfect weapon and not mass-producing it like the others. This can be our selling point of why our weapons work better. So what do you say? Do we have a deal?" Quinn's offer sounded very enticing to Alex. He had always struggled with credits before, and truthfully, he wanted to work on an advanced weapon because he had never done one before. Only practiced it in theory in his head. It was rare for such a student to be given this type of offer. Honestly, Alex loved crafting weapons so much that he would have done it for free for Quinn. The reason for giving the price was to cover the cost of the materials, but thought that if someone was able to get 3 advanced crystals easily like that, they should also have plenty of credits. If you bring me those short swords, and I check they are the same as these gauntlets, and there are no forger markings, then we have a deal, Alex said. With that, Quinn quickly headed off to his room to use the remainder of its credits to purchase 2 more intermediate crystals. Sorry, Vorden, you're going to have to wait a little longer. While accessing the shop, the 2 short swords appeared in front of him once again. It had cost him all his credits, but it was a lot cheaper than paying 30,000 coins. Before Quinn had returned, Alex did a little research of his own. He tried to look at the marketplace to see if anyone was selling anything similar. It was hard to tell just from a photo and description, but even the design was something he just couldn't find online. It was a real opportunity for him to sell them. Quinn, with the short swords in his hand, was heading back as soon as possible. He had thought about doing this before with someone. The problem was that he was afraid. Since the equipment belonged to the system, he was pretty sure it was related to the vampires. Selling such equipment to the whole world could cause him trouble. But he knew it would take a few years before that was to happen, and it looked like the vampires would reach him before then. Quinn handed the short swords over to Alex once he returned with the required weapons. Once again, he checked them over and found no forger marking, and just like with the gauntlets, they were better than any intermediate-tier weapon he had ever seen. Well, you kept your word, so I will keep mine, Alex said as he reached out his hand. The 2 shook hands, and from today onwards, they would be business partners. So, how long do you think it will take for you to make a beast weapon for me? Quinn asked. Alex started to do the calculations in his head. The melting process, ordering of the metals, making a design. About 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Quinn shouted, expecting it to at most take a few hours. It certainly was different from how Logan did things. He was itching to try out his new weapons as soon as possible, but if this was how long it would take, then that's how long it would take. He couldn't change that fact. Still, he was in a good mood. He had little money left, but that didn't matter. If things worked out, perhaps in the future he would be a tycoon that would be able to compete on Logan's level. How much money does Logan even have? He started thinking about all the things in his room, and just how much are one of those gaming pods again. Not only did every military base have a room full of VR pods, but even the people on the outside also enjoyed playing it. Maybe I won't surpass him, Quinn thought. With the day over, Quinn thought he would get one of the best nights of sleep he ever had. A few hours into the night and his sleep, he was suddenly woken up by a strange smell. He looked to his right, and Vorden was still there, sleeping away. Phew, I guess everything's okay. But the strange smell hadn't disappeared, and he knew what it was straight away. Another vampire. Have they already come? Should I wake up Vorden? No, why would they reveal their presence to me? Why not just attack me? Getting out of his bed, Quinn slowly started to follow the scent. Following the strange smell, Quinn was still wondering if it was the right thing to do or not. After all, he was in the military base. It was quite easy for him to make a scene and scare off whatever vampire that was coming his way. The problem was, how many days would that buy him? They were here now, and they were here to get to him. Vex, before leaving, had informed the others that they would be cautious before returning, so why would they change their mind, and now that curiosity had gotten the better of Quinn? The smell of the vampire got stronger, and then at times it would weaken again. It was as if Quinn was playing a game of hot and cold, trying to find just where they were hiding. Eventually, though, he realized it wasn't trying to hide. It was trying to lead him somewhere. Right now, he was looking at the last staircase that led up to the school roof. The door was slightly open, and a cool breeze could be heard going through it, as if it was inviting him. This is your last chance to turn back, Quinn, he thought to himself. If you don't talk to me now, I'll only catch you at another time. I thought I would be polite in inviting you here, a voice said. The words were spoken quietly, but at the same time loud enough for a vampire to hear, who was standing only a few feet away from the door. I don't want to fight, I just want to talk. Screw it, Quinn said. If not now, then when? Going up to the top of the staircase and opening the door to the rooftop, he could see the back of a figure standing there. Her hair flowed in the wind, and the moonlight shone off the silver strands. It was the first vampire Quinn was meeting outside of Vex, and this wasn't a child like him. As Silver turned around, she looked at the boy. He had the same features as the white they had captured before their transformation was over, and she could smell he was a vampire. She looked him up and down, trying to see if there was anything special, to see if she could see what Vex could see, but at a glance she felt nothing. If this was the person who was going to change the way the vampire worlds worked, then surely she should have felt something, but she didn't. But Fext believed in you for some reason, enough to risk his own life for yours, so you're the only hope I have. What do you— Quinn was about to say, but Silver suddenly snapped. Down! She shouted, with her eyes beaming red. In an instant, as if Quinn had lost control of his body, he fell to his knees and was pinned. Is this the influence skill? It's so strong! He tried to fight back using his strength, but nothing seemed to be working. I will do the talking from here, Silver said. I've come to tell you the information that has happened in the vampire world. I don't care if your leader has cared to inform you, but since this is all your fault in the first place, I shall— The decision has been made. 2 months from now, on August the 15th, the day that he came into this world, Fex Sanguinus shall be sentenced to death. If Quinn wasn't already frozen, he would have been frozen in place from her words. He wasn't expecting to hear any news from the vampires, and why would they even bother to inform him? They didn't even properly know about him yet. Then an unexpected name appeared, Fex's name. Quinn had prepared himself to perhaps never see Peter again. He didn't want to, but he knew it was a possibility. But still, for some reason, he never thought such a harsh punishment would befall Fex. Why, what did he do? Quinn shouted. In front of all the family leaders, Fex admittedly lied to everyone. He tried to deceive everyone, and that included his own family. Did you do all this because of me? You went that far, Fex. I thought you would be okay. I thought you had a plan. What's the point of sacrificing 2 lives for my own? Why are you telling me this? Quinn said. Is it just to taunt me, to inform me that his death is because of me? His hands were now shaking with anger, and in this he hadn't realized that a part of his mobility had come back. What is wrong with you people? He did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong, Quinn shouted. People every day are killing each other, hitting each other in this world, yet for some reason we're the ones to be punished. I thought maybe you vampires would be better, but it looks like you are scum too, just like the rest. Do any of you even care about each other? Silver was a little taken back by Quinn's words. Fex had broken the rules, of course. He should be punished, but did he deserve death? Did the illegal do anything to harm the vampires in any way? You don't understand. He broke the rules. We have always followed them, and we always will. The council has made its decision. It's all for a greater cause in the end, and to protect us all. Screw the council, Quinn said as he slowly lifted one leg off the ground. His knee twitched, and then finally his foot was placed on the floor. Huh? Is he breaking my influence? That's impossible. He's only at the vampire level. Down, Silver said. And once again, Quinn's body was forced into the same position as before. You don't understand, Silver said. That was when Quinn noticed a single drop of a tear falling to the floor from her right eye. So far all the words being said had no emotion in them, and even now when she spoke it sounded so. Is she holding them back? I care more about vampires than anything, but the rules must be followed. At the same time, though, I care about my brother, and I don't want to see him die like this. He was destined for more. I cannot break the rules, but you, she said, pointing at him, you are an outsider, someone who has already broken the rules. You can fight back against them. For some reason, my brother believed in you. He told me that he thought you were a vampire that would one day change the world, but that one day isn't quick enough. You need to change it now. A gust of wind went past, and her silver hair flickered in front of her face once more. Several tears could now be seen hitting the floor. As Quinn blinked, he could no longer see her there. The control over his body had disappeared as well. He quickly got up and ran to where her position was. He tried smelling the air, looking over the edge, searching high and low, seeing where she could have gone, but in the end, she was nowhere to be seen, and her scent no longer lingered. That was Fex's sister. I can't believe they're going to kill him. Not just that, what about Peter? I had so many questions to ask. How could she just come and leave like that? What am I meant to do now with all this information? It was a big shock to Quinn, although he was preparing to travel to the vampire world with Logan. Going there and rescuing someone were two different things. August 15th, that's 2 months from now. School ends around July. Can I get strong enough to save him? He clenched his fist tightly and looked up at the full moon that night. Fex's sister seemed so powerful to Quinn. She was strong enough to control him just with her influence, and yet she wasn't still doing anything. If she wouldn't, then he was Fex's only hope. No, I will save him. I'm coming for you, Peter and Fex. Just wait for me. Don't give up yet, at least not until I— The ball of energy could be felt swirling around in his body. On the first day while practicing, Quinn was able to remember what Leo had taught him and what he had felt that day. Just as he promised, He practiced it every morning, and he was currently sitting on top of his bed in a mediating position, cross-legged. Vorden didn't ask what Quinn was doing, but just assumed that he must have been under a lot of stress lately and was just trying out a few things to let that stress out of him. Breathing in deeply, he could see the ball of energy. Before, it was the size of a ping-pong ball, but now it had grown to the size of a tennis ball. Each day it seemed to be growing in size as he managed to gather and control more ki around his body. The next step was moving it around into the different parts, and this was the tricky part. Moving the energy from his fingertips to his toes is what Leo had told him to do. Thus, if he wanted the ki to naturally enhance his entire body, he would have to flatten the ball so that the energy spread out all over the body. It was clear that he had a long way to go, but he also had no clue whether or not he was improving fast or slow. Still, he decided to trust Leo. It only took him 30 minutes to practice each morning anyway. Fex, Quinn thought. The next step was getting stronger. He now had a time frame, and it was far shorter than he had first thought. Realistically, he didn't know how big the vampire world was or how long it would take to save Fex. He couldn't just leave his training up until the very last day. They also needed to spend some time in the vampire world too. So in Quinn's head, rather than having 2 months to save Fex, he would only have one for the actual training. 560 of 51,200. With just his daily tasks and playing the VR game, his EXP gaining was extremely slow. So if he wasn't able to level up, then there was only one thing he could do to get stronger in such a short amount of time, which was to consume blood. I know Fex said I'll get addicted the more times I drink blood, but that doesn't matter right now. I can always wear myself off of it later. I know it will be tough, but I have no choice. After Quinn was done with his normal lessons, he made his decision. He thought about how he could get many different types of blood easily. He also knew a certain person who could help him with that. Of course I can help you with that, Logan said in his usual chair while getting a massage from his mechanical spider arms. But before I help you, I want you to tell me why. And no more lies, Quinn. We've already decided to go to the vampire world together. Quinn planned to raid the city's hospital. Not the school's one, but the actual hospital located near the Plaza Center that all soldiers had access to. They had been there once before, but the only problem Quinn had at the time was the cameras. After seeing what Logan could do and what he had done at the base event, it should be easy work for Logan. On top of that, Quinn also had the shadow cloak that would be able to hide him in the darkness. As long as they did this at night and the cameras were turned off, there would be no evidence of any culprit who could have done such a thing. Fex's sister came to me last night, Quinn said. As soon as he said these words, Logan's mechanical arms that were giving him a massage all lifted in the air as if they were shocked and reacting to how Logan was feeling. I know they have some type of council there, and she came to tell me about their decision with Fex. With Fex, not Peter? Quinn shook his head. I don't know about Peter, but as for Fex, they've decided to give him a public execution. Logan wasn't as surprised with the verdict of the vampires as Quinn was. The reason being, Vorden had asked Fex a question at the time before he had left, and his answer wasn't something that gave him confidence. Perhaps Fex already knew that there was a chance of this happening. Okay, so I understand that, but what does that have to do with going to the hospital? Logan asked. The truth is, I get stronger from every different blood type I consume. So far, there have been no restrictions that I know of. Different blood types support me in different ways. I can get physically stronger, faster, and a few other benefits as well. Thinking about what Quinn had just said, Logan was a little horrified. How many humans existed on the campus alone? How many humans in the entire existence existed? If what he was saying was true, at some point Quinn's strength would be unmatched. He would become a vampire god. Are there other vampires like this? Logan asked, now having slight second thoughts if this was the case. No, it seems to be special and related to my system. All right, I'll help you, Quinn. Of course I will. We won't waste any time. What you've told me has only given me more strength to work. I've been working on some new suits for myself. I'm not so naive as to believe that we won't get in any scuffles while there. Oh, and while we're at it, Logan quickly went over to his specially designed fridge. Honestly, Quinn didn't know what to call it, but that was the closest thing he had in his head. From the fridge, he pulled out what looked like a small bottle of spray. It was dark red, and then he proceeded to spray it all over his body without saying a word. But as soon as he did, Quinn knew exactly what he had done. It works! You made it work! Quinn said in excitement. For now, I can only make the smell last for up to an hour, which is a bit of a problem, I think. I can make it last a bit longer, but I can't get it to work as a permanent solution. The look on Logan's face was now serious. Quinn, You need to start being more open to us, not just to me but everyone. If you had told me this sooner, then I could have probably made something to disguise the vampire smell from both you and Peter. As I said before, I know you don't want us to get involved, but we already are." Quinn didn't reply, but he understood that he wasn't alone in all this. Before, he might have been, but right now, he had people who were willing to help him, and they were reliable people too. "We'll meet tonight around 8 p.m. That'll give us 2 hours before the curfew to get in and get out, which should be plenty of time." Thus, with all that, the plan was set in motion. After Quinn returned to his room, all he needed to do now was wait until it was time to head to the front gate. With Vorden not in the room and no one to talk to, Quinn thought it would be a good chance to practice his key again. However, just as he was about to, the system had spoken out to him, which was a rather rare occurrence. "You shouldn't be doing this, you know," the system said. But Quinn decided to not reply after their last confrontation. "If they find out you're the 10th leader, then—" The system stopped there, not going further. "Then what?" Quinn replied. "Then they will find out Peter isn't illegal, that Fex did nothing wrong, and then both of them will be set free." "Stop acting like a child and just listen," the system said. "I keep telling you you're too weak. Do you remember the girl from the rooftop? She was a vampire knight. There are many more who are just as powerful as her, and on top of that, you also have the vampire leaders, who are all at the lord level. Yet you're still just a vampire, not even a noble. Do you think you deserve a seat next to them?" "Deserve a seat?" Quinn repeated. "I don't care about any of this vampire business. I just want to protect those who are close to me. Tell me, is that so wrong?" "That's not what I'm trying to say. This is not how I feel, but I know this is how they will feel. If they find out you're a leader, then the others will target you. They will just see you as someone weak, someone who they can easily knock out, just so they can attain the throne." Quinn remained silent for a moment. These days he wasn't enjoying his conversation with the system and was wondering how different his life would have been if he had never found that book in the first place. "You were one of the old leaders, weren't you?" Quinn said. "I know you won't confirm it, but it's the only reason why you know so much." "I can see you made up your mind," the system said. "I tried stopping this, but they will find out sooner or later, once you obtain one of the council seats as a leader, willingly or unwillingly. I will tell you everything you want to know then. That is, if you even live to get to that point." It was nearly time for the two of them to meet. Standing outside the school gate, Quinn waited patiently for Logan to arrive while looking down the path. His mind was filled with thoughts, but was mainly focused on getting stronger. While waiting, he noticed 3 kids making their way back to school. 3 boys, to be precise. 2 of them had their arms wrapped around the one in the center. The 2 on the side were cheery, but at the same time they seemed to be a bit rough with him. Looking at the boy's face, one could tell he was nervous. He didn't seem happy to be hanging around with his friends, and his frightened heartbeat that could be heard from a distance just confirmed it. Looking closely, Quinn managed to catch a glimpse. He was a level 2 power level, while the other 2 around him were level 4s. It was clear what was happening. The same thing both Quinn and Peter used to go through still happened all around the school. Ever since the base event, most of the students had decided to stay clear of Quinn. There were still a few others that approached him and tried mocking him, getting him to fight them, but in the end, they would never act first as they used to when they thought he was a level 1. "Not now, Quinn, you don't have the time." Truthfully, now that Quinn was forced to be reckoned with in the school, he would usually stop instances like these. He remembered what Berg of the Sunshield family had said to him, how him helping would only help temporarily, but in the case of Berg, he had never been in the same situation as Quinn. He knew that when one was being bullied, they would have liked even for a second if someone helped and reached out to them one time. If they could ease the pain for a second, they hoped that it might stop eventually. But this time, Quinn could do nothing. He didn't need eyes remembering where he was, and they were on a close time frame as well. "It is now 6 o'clock, Logan said. "I am perfectly on time, and as I said, the sunset was about 10 minutes ago. We are in complete darkness, which is perfect for a job like this." "Do you have everything?" Quinn asked. "Of course," Logan replied, unzipping his shirt and showing a shiny piece of armor. It was his spiders. They had formed a thin suit under his standard uniform. With them both being ready, they headed off into the city. It would take half an hour to reach the hospital at a fast pace, and another half an hour to come back. If Quinn didn't have to slow down for Logan to catch up, he could have made it even quicker, but it was only because of him that they even could do such a thing in the first place. Finally, they had reached the hospital. It wasn't too busy, and there weren't many that would come in with serious wounds. Only those that felt ill or had an accident during training would come in. Although there were still some people like that. The soldiers that were on duty on other planets would often have medical treatment at the shelter, There would often be more than enough supplies to be equipped with everything, but still, from time to time, you would have the odd person that needed to be sent back to the base. On the way there, they had set up their plan. Quinn had enough MC points to stay hidden the entire time, as long as nothing happened. So before they reached the inside of the hospital, Quinn performed his shadow cloak skill and just waited outside, right around the corner of the hospital in the shadows. There was a major problem with the shadow cloak, though, one being that it wasn't perfect in light. If one was to move, then ripples in the air could still be seen. However, in the dark, it would be perfect. Logan had entered the hospital ahead of Quinn and had sat down in the waiting area. He then let out his spiders to do their work. The research was already done beforehand, thus, unlike the dungeons, he was able to easily get the layout and structure of the hospital. Sending out his spiders, he commanded them to go out in multiple directions. They spread to all the areas between the entrance and to where Quinn needed to be. Then finally, when all the spiders were in position, there was a clear signal for Quinn to enter the hospital. 3, 2, 1, Logan said, and in an instant, all of the lights were turned off. However, Quinn didn't have a long time. Logan had given him a set of instructions beforehand about where to go, and hence Quinn needed to hurry and get to the room. Even though the power was cut off, hospitals always had a backup generator for emergencies. Still, Quinn wasn't just fast now, he was extremely fast. As soon as the light turned back on, Quinn was already in the room he needed to be in, and not a single soul had seen him. There were 3 different storage rooms where they kept the different blood types. Some blood types were kept in a special type of a freezer in which they could be stored for a year, although they could take the blood bags back with them. Quinn wanted to consume the blood now while they were still in the hospital. This way they wouldn't have any evidence left with them. The room Quinn was currently in was a blood refrigerator. This was where they especially stored the blood that was to be used on demand, and it would be then kept for at least 42 days. The blood was kept in special types of packs and containers up against the wall. There were rows and rows of blood, and Quinn couldn't imagine how many stat points he would be able to increase from this. His inspection skill was cast, and a pair of gloves could be seen on his hand for hiding his fingerprints. The inspection skill allowed him to see each blood type there was, and they seemed to already be categorized into blood types for him, with A positive and negative being next to each other. When looking at the blood packs, it was time for one of Logan's special inventions to get to work. The blood packs had a special type of seal on them. Blood would usually be extracted through some type of tube, but to show that they hadn't been opened before the seal was placed upon them. Logan didn't want to be unethical. People needed blood to live, and Quinn only needed a small amount to get his stats. So Logan had designed a special type of needle that was able to be injected into the plastic bag and then, on its way out, seal it up, making it look like nothing was ever taken. The problem was that there was only one needle, so Quinn would have to consume the blood then and there and repeat this process quickly. This wasn't a problem, though, as Quinn got to work pulling out the A blood type packs and increasing his stats one by one. The A stat gave him strength, and he could see it slowly rising with every different person's blood. A+ blood type has been consumed, +1 to strength. The message continued with each one, and every time, Quinn felt a surge of energy, but for the first time, he also felt something different. He could tell the taste of the blood was getting better each time. He had never consumed so many blood types in one go before, and now he could tell the addiction was coming. Still, it wasn't a bad feeling, it just put him off for a brief second before he continued. Finally, as though something strange had happened, he had received a message he never thought he would get. A positive blood type has been consumed. Strength 40. You have reached the maximum number of stat points in strength. To proceed further, you must evolve. The message had come as a surprise for him. The system had said nothing about a cap before, and now suddenly this message had appeared. But Quinn did remember that the system often said that it didn't create the system himself. So there were some things even he didn't know, and this could have just been one of them. Still not wanting to waste any more time, Quinn decided to continue onward to the next set of blood packs. Even if he had maxed out on one, it didn't mean he had maxed out on the others. After drinking what they had of Type B blood, the same message appeared once again. 40 agility points reached. Moving onward, Quinn continued in this fashion, taking a small amount of blood from one each, until, eventually, all of his stats had reached the top. Strength, 40, agility, 40, stamina, 40, charm, 40. His stats before were around the high 20s, and now they had not only surpassed 30 when he felt a significant power increase, they had even reached 40. His entire body felt different. He felt like a completely new person. His cells were vibrating with excitement, and the increase in his power was addicting and exciting. He didn't know what was coming over him, but he felt like he needed to get rid of all this excess energy right this moment somehow. But right now, he was in the hospital. If he was to do anything excessive, they would quickly find out. "Quinn, you need to calm yourself down. You've taken in too many types of blood. The rush you are feeling right now, it's the addiction," the system said urgently. But hearing him and doing what the system said were two different things. He could hear the heartbeats of the humans that were walking by the door and the blood that was pulsing through their veins. All he wanted to do was rip the door open and continue his feast. "What do I do?" Quinn thought while huffing and panting. Then a thought suddenly came to him. There was something he did every morning that seemed to relax him, and it would also help him gather his energy. Quinn quickly sat down on the icy floor and closed his eyes. He started to gather the energy that was raving inside of his body. He focused and started to think of the small ball. Usually when he looked within himself, the energy he could see was almost white and was around the size of a tennis ball, but right now it had expanded to become big as a basketball and was tainted red. "This has to be the blood energy as well. It's going wild around my entire body." Trying his best, he tried to focus and did the usual thing he did every day, but the red energy was a lot wilder than the white energy, and it took an extreme amount of focus for Quinn. Even in the cold room that he was in currently, his body was still sweating heavily from the concentration. After a few minutes, the white energy and red energy started to combine. It seemed like the two energies were now working together in harmony, slowly but steadily, instead of fighting against each other. Quinn didn't know what this meant. He tried moving the energy around his body, and it felt similar to when he performed his blood skills, but at the same time different. He didn't know what had happened, but at least the addiction and the excitement he was feeling had gone away. Looking at the energy and concentrating together, the red energy mixed with the white was still there. When he would meet Leo again, he would have to ask him what this meant. Once everything was settled, Quinn gave a thumbs up to the spider in the corner that was covering one of the cameras. The spider was then able to inform Logan what he needed to do. Logan left the lobby, and as soon as he did, all of the lights went out once more. He continued to walk away from the hospital, down the pathway that led back to the school. Then finally he reached the park and convenience store that was located not too far from the school. "Quinn! Quinn, are you there?" Logan whispered. Suddenly by his side, Quinn appeared and caused Logan to jump back upon hearing his voice. "I'm right here," Quinn said. "Did you have to do that?" Logan shouted while still keeping his voice down. "Anyway, did everything go according to the plan?" "Not completely according to the plan, but I got what I needed," Quinn replied. There was still the chance to increase his stats in the future, and perhaps when he evolved they could return. As the two of them continued to walk down the path and headed back to school, Quinn decided that it was best to ask the system about his stats anyway, even if he didn't know. "Honestly, I didn't know there was a limit, but of course I always expected one," the system replied. "But still, I'm amazed that you were able to grow this much. I thought you would have hit the limit far sooner." "What do you mean?" Quinn asked. "Think of it this way. Let's pretend as if everyone had a system just like you. I have based all these numbers on the research that I did from observing you. So give or take it, as it might not exactly be accurate. If a normal human being has power with no training whatsoever is around 5, then a human who was at the peak would be around 10. Of course, not all of their stats would be at 10, but let us pretend for the sake of the example. A standard vampire would have around 20 points. Then we have skilled vampires who aren't quite at the noble like Fex and have their stats in the higher 20s, possibly 25. Then a beginner noble vampire would be around 30. For someone who is just at the vampire level, you are incredibly skillful. This is all, of course, because of your extra stats when consuming different types of blood that other vampires don't have. Now, I wouldn't say there has never been a vampire as powerful as you before evolving into the next stage, but it's very rare and often takes years. If anyone was to learn about what talent and everything you have learned in a short amount of time, no one would believe it. There would be quests of vampires lining up, asking me how I did it," the system said, getting a little carried away. "Sorry, obviously I was talking about this if it was the past." "And what about a vampire leader? They're at the rank of a vampire lord, correct? Am I any way near them?" Quinn asked. The system decided to remain silent, which in a way was an answer in itself. He could tell this even with the other vampire, as she was beyond a noble's level. "I thought as much. I still need to get stronger, but now I've been capped until I can level up." The problem now was how. The only way to gain EXP at the moment was to do his daily tasks, which gave him minimal EXP and hadn't changed since he first became a vampire. It had become a daily routine for him to complete them by now, so he never even thought about them. The second way was what he had been doing by playing the game. The problem with this was that the game only gave him half the amount of EXP he would get if he was to fight them in real life. It was a serious problem, and even with a hard grind, it would take a long time for him to level up. And when he had entered the game with Nate, the quest for the instant level up had never appeared. It didn't appear the first time the two had fought in the game either, which suggested that the system wouldn't give him the EXP points that he needed even if he did beat Nate. The desperation was starting to get to Quinn, and he was truly trying to rack his brain, thinking of any type of solution that was possible. Before he realized it, Logan and he were already inside the school. "All right, Quinn, I'm going to head off to my room," Logan said. "I still have a lot of things to work on myself for our trip." Even Logan was working hard in the middle of the night for the journey. Quinn needed to do something. He started to walk through the hallway and was heading back to his room when he spotted a student crouched up and in a ball outside one of the rooms. On a closer look, Quinn realized it was the same boy he had seen with the other two earlier. His hair was soaking wet, his face was covered in bruises, and his eyes were puffy from the tears. The boy looked up as he heard someone's footsteps walk past. The scene reminded Quinn of what had happened to Peter that one time, and it looked like it was happening to others too. Crouching down, Quinn and the boy were now looking at each other. "Are you okay?" Quinn asked. The boy continued to sob, but he still answered back while doing so. I don't want to go back in there," the boy said. "They'll just hit me again. Every day." Quinn could feel the pain in his eyes and through his words. He could feel it not just because of that, but also because he went through it himself. Not everybody was as strong as him when he was getting bullied. Different people dealt with it differently, and the student here seemed like he was at his breaking point. Perhaps Peter was in the past would as well, if Quinn had done nothing. Looking at the boy, something needed to be done, and at that moment in time, something clicked in his head which would allow him to gain more experience. "Do you wish those people would disappear? Do you want them to never touch you again?" Quinn asked. The boy remained silent as he didn't know what Quinn was getting at. "I'm asking you, do you want them to go away?" Clenching his fist, the boy shouted, "Of course I do! I want them out of my life forever!" Standing up, Quinn walked down the hallway to his room and had a smile on his face while speaking. "Then I'll grant you your wish."
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.